Welcome to the Strong N6 Business Challenge. My name is Shay Peffley. I'm a certified EOS implementer out of St. Louis, Missouri. And as I'm sure you have all been enjoying all month long, and we've got a few weeks still left in this business challenge, we've been enjoying some great EOS content. And all of this EOS content has been designed to help you get more out of your business. And it's also been designed to help us strengthen the 6 key components of your business. So I just wanted to take a quick second and remind us about the journey. When we're talking about the EOS model, Gino Wickman created this model based on the discoveries that all entrepreneurs and all entrepreneurial leaders tend to wrestle with 136 issues simultaneously, meaning the same old issues over and over and over again. And these discoveries also prove that if we can just strengthen the 6 key components of our business, all of those issues tend to fall into place. So this journey of strengthening the 6 key components of your business, I just wanted to take a moment and remind us of what that is. It is about strengthening the vision component, getting everybody in your organization 100% on the same page with not only where you're going, but how you're going to execute and get there. It's about strengthening the people component, making sure that we have all of the right people in the right seats, and making sure that all of those right people in the right seats can achieve that vision that you've articulated. And it's about making sure that we strengthen the data component, being able to make decisions on facts and figures and objective information, rather than sometimes ego, subjective feelings, and emotional stuff that sometimes drives decisions. What ends up happening when we're working on strengthening vision, people, and data components of our business, all of the challenges, all of the obstacles, all of the imperfections, all of the ideas, all of that great stuff starts to happen. And we just call that great stuff issues. It's about strengthening the issues component. It is also about strengthening the process component, ensuring that you're identifying your key core processes, and those key core processes, you're simplifying them, getting them documented and followed by all. And last but not least, strengthening the 6 key components of your business is also about taking the vision and bringing it down to the ground with traction, executing with discipline and accountability so you can gain that traction. You've now got this beautiful articulated vision and you're sharing it by all. We've got to make sure we bring it down to the ground and execute as well. So strengthening the 6 key components of our business, helping you get more out of your business. Now, you're here today to talk about the issues component. So I want to take a moment and explain to you the 2 tools that we use to help you strengthen the issues component. The first tool is the issues list. And what this means, leaders, it's about taking the time with intention to create an environment that's open and honest, an environment that creates psychological safety. So everybody in your organization is really excited about going, woohoo, I got an issue. Yes, I'm excited about putting that issue on the issues list. So making sure that everybody has access to an issues list somewhere in the organization. When I talk about putting this discipline throughout the organization, that culture of psychological safety allows individuals to know it's okay for me to put this idea on the table. It's okay for me to put this obstacle or this problem that I'm having, or even this new idea, because they know if it's on that issues list, that there is going to be an action and a solve and something that's going to come from that, that's going to allow them to move the business forward. So getting it on the issues list is the first tool to strengthen the issues component. And the second tool is the issues solving track. The issues solving track, or IDS. And the issues solving track was created to simply keep leaders on track and help you become great problem solvers, allowing you every single week to be attacking those problems as they arise, knocking them down, making them go away for the long-term greater good of the organization. So, Miss Sierra, I need to ask the attendees a question, and I need your help on this, okay? So attendees, I have one simple question I'd like to ask of you. And if you would take a moment and open up your chat, and when I put the question on the screen next, I would love for you to type the answer in the chat. And Miss Sarah is going to share the answers with me, and we're going to talk about some of that. So, you ready? Give me thumbs up if you're ready. Beautiful. All right, Miss Sarah. The question, attendees, is, what are issues? Put it in the chat. Tell me, what are issues? Start dropping those answers in the chat for me. Who can tell me what are issues? All right, Sarah, what type of comments we getting in the chat?
Concern, problem, obstacles, opportunities, ideas, threats,
Yes.
anything and everything.
Yes.
Situations that need to be resolved, things that need to be improved, underperformance in the scorecard.
Yes.
Problems and roadblocks that need to be solved, what's not going well.
Great answers. Yes, yes. These leaders on this issues session, they get it, Sarah. That's actually correct. That's exactly correct. Issues are just barriers, they're obstacles, they're off-track scorecard items, they are new innovation, they're future opportunities, they're projects, they're ideas. It's all of the stuff that's going on in your business. All of that stuff is important. So we've got to make sure that we get them on our issues list, because there's a lot of moving parts happening in your business day in and day out. So all of those things that you so graciously put in the comments there, those are issues. And those issues are all important, but they may not necessarily be a priority. So the next part of understanding how to strengthen the issues component is making sure that we normalize our issues. It's just an issue. It's something that we've got to talk about on one of those weeks in a level 10 meeting and truly understand how we're going to move forward. What's the decision that we're making? So it's about normalizing all of the moving parts that's happening in your business. The other part of this, let's not forget, we've got 2 issues lists. Remember, leaders, we have that short-term issues list. That's everything that's impacting your 90-day world. You know, we live in that 90-day world. We've set 90-day priorities with our rocks. And in that 90-day world, there's going to be stuff that surfaces that's being impacted. Those are your short-term issues that you are IDSing every single week in your level 10 meeting. And then all of the other stuff that's equally as important, but it's not necessarily a priority, we are going to put those on our long-term issues list. And our long-term issues list is housed in our VTO. It's question number 8 on the VTO. What are our issues? So we want to make sure that we're keeping all of the most important stuff in the 90-day world that we're living in. Short-term issues list, level 10 meeting, you're IDSing on a week-to-week basis. And all of the other important stuff, we don't want to see that until we get to that future quarter. So we're keeping that on our long-term issues list on our VTO. And I just have to say, if you're one of the leaders that says, oh my gosh, this week we solved every issue on our issues list, we don't have any more issues, I'm here to tell you, leaders, that is the issue that we should be IDSing that week, because having issues on your issues list is very healthy. We want hundreds of issues on your issues list, but we want you using short-term and long-term issues list to make sure that we're keeping the most important, super critical stuff before us. So if you don't have issues, that's telling me something. That's telling me that we're not digging deep in our organization and we're not capturing all of the stuff that really is important that's going to help you move forward. The other thing that may be occurring that I just want to remind you is that, remember we talked about, in order to get issues on the issues list, we've got to make sure we have an open and honest environment. We want to make sure that people are comfortable raising their hand and truly getting those ideas and obstacles and opportunities on the issues list. So normalizing the issues, compartmentalizing short-term and long-term, and making sure that we have issues on our issues list. So now that we understand what the issues are, let's deep dive in. Issue solving track. When we're talking about the issue solving track, Gino created the issue solving track, as I stated, to help leaders stay on track and help you really, really, really become really good problem solvers. So IDS, identify, discuss, and solve. When we're talking about identify, discuss, and solve, and we've been collecting all of these issues on our issues list, the very first thing that we need to do is, it's to prioritize. We've got a lot of stuff that's going on that issues list. It's a dynamic list. Things are going on the list, things are coming off the list. So the first thing we need to do is prioritize those issues on the issues list. And we are prioritizing based on the fact, what are the most important 1, 2, or 3 things that's impacting us this week, just over the next 7 days? We're trying to move the business forward on a weekly basis. So if we live in a 90-day world, we have all of these issues on our issues list impacting our 90-day world. What we're most concerned about is moving the business forward on a week-to-week basis. So we are prioritizing the top 1, 2, and 3 things that are impacting us super critical just over the next 7 days. And this will be the only time you'll hear me say to leaders, when you are prioritizing in your level 2 meeting, I want you to be selfish. You're like, Shay, what? Seriously, I want you to be selfish. I want you to be selfish in lobbying for the super critical things that's impacting you. Because if you are a leader sitting in a seat on your accountability chart and you have something that's off track, you have something that's a great idea that can move the business forward this quarter, you have things that are new opportunities, or even those problems or obstacles. If it's preventing you from moving forward, that is the one opportunity you have to lobby for those super critical things. Lobby for your 1, 2, and 3. And once the leaders come together and you decide, you just begin to IDS. So lobby for your super critical 1, 2, 3 and prioritize to allow you to move forward to identify. When we move forward to identify, what are we trying to identify? What are we trying to identify? Root cause, root cause. Remember, all of the issues that are on your issues list are actually symptoms of a deeper root cause. So when we are in identify, we are identifying the root cause of what the issue is. So we are wanting to understand, why is that an issue? We are wanting to understand, why is that a great opportunity now with where we are in the business? We want to ask the question, what pain is that causing you? What's the real issue here? And leaders, the majority of your time when you are IDSing an issue should be spent in identify. Believe it or not, you should be spending the majority of your time in identify, because we really want to identify the real issue. What truly is that pain? Because it will lead us down the right discuss path. Another reminder, if you get stuck in identifying the root cause, you've asked why, you've asked another why, you've asked another why, and we're still not quite getting to the point of being able to say, yes, this is the root cause. Please don't forget all of the opportunities and weaknesses that happen in your business. They are going to hit one of the 6 key components of your business. It's either going to be related to your vision, your people, data transparency. It's either going to be related to how you're solving the issues, or maybe the issues aren't even hitting the issues list. It's going to be related to process. Is a process broken? It's either going to be related to traction and execution. So don't forget, if you get stuck and you're trying to identify we've given you all of the tools used to help you strengthen the 6 key components of your business. So if something truly is a people issue, are we pulling out our people analyzer? Are we truly right then and there in our IDS using the people analyzer to understand if this is a core value alignment or a GWC, get it, want it, capacity, rating bar issue? We're trying to do that to get to the root cause right then and there. So don't forget, if you can identify which component within your EOS model is weak, as a default, go to your tools because it will lead you down the right path of discuss. So after we've identified the root cause, we are simply moving on to discuss. What typically happens is that we prioritize our 1, 2, and 3. We move on to IDSing, and then we skip right over identify and we start discussing and discussing and discussing and then discussing. And lo and behold, our IDS time has been exhausted and we have yet to get to the real root cause. And we've discussed a lot of different things along the way. So I just want to put that reminder out there to back us up a little bit and make sure that we are identifying the root cause. Then we are discussing everything that impacts the root cause. The reason we're discussing everything that impacts the root cause is because we want, 1, new issues to surface. We want those new issues to rise. Those new issues are either going to be related to what we're actually discussing on the root cause, or it's a new issue that we want to make sure we capture on our issues list for a future IDS. So discussing at the root cause is to identify new issues, as well as understand what probable solves that could surface as we are discussing everything that impacts that root cause. Once we discuss everything that's impacting the root cause, we want to make sure that we don't get stuck in politicking. So a lot of the times I hear the question, how do we know when to move to a solve? We're discussing it and we're discussing it. So a couple of tips here. If you begin to repeat yourself, or you find yourself going around in circles or one individual is continuing to say the same thing over and over, just in a different way, it's probably time to move to a solve. Another way, if you've been passionately having healthy discussion and debate in your discuss, and then all of a sudden, the aggressiveness behind that subject matter starts to lessen a little bit, there's a little bit more space, the conversation slows down, it's probably time for a leader to recommend we move to a solve. So just a couple of things to keep in mind. You want to discuss until the conversation becomes redundant and simply move on to that solve. When we move on to the solve, it is about making sure that we have the best action plan that's going to move the business forward. When we also move to that solve, we want to make sure that we, 1, restate the solve. A lot of the times we get to the solve and we say, yep, this is the solve, and we move right on to IDS and issue number 2. I want to slow you down just a little bit. And in slowing down, I want you to restate the solve. I want you to say, so the decision we are making is, and restate whatever that solve is, because you want everyone in attendance of that meeting to have absolute clarity that this is the united front decision that we are making as we move forward. Once everyone has clarity on the solve, the decision we're making and moving forward, it's simply time to create the to-do. So in that to-do, 7-day action item, that's going to allow you to go into your business and execute on the solve, on the solution, execute on whatever the opportunity is, whatever that decision. And sometimes we just got to take a shot. We just got to take a shot. You know, sometimes taking a shot is the best way to learn. We've got to at least make a decision and get it to do. The one thing I'd like to remind you on the to-dos, the 7-day action item, is that a solve, depending on the root cause, may have several to-dos. You may walk out of there with 3, 4, 5 different leaders having a to-do that they own, which is why it's so equally important to restate the solve. If you are IDSing and you're discussing the root cause that you've identified, that root cause may impact several seats on the accountability chart. So several leaders may walk out of there with a 7-day to-do that they're going into their accountable areas and executing to make that issue go away for the long-term greater good. So a to-do is not just a to-do. It is creating the to-dos around the solve or solves associated with the discuss around the root cause that you've identified. So all of those to-dos, keep in mind, should have a 90% to done percent every single week. So every single week we're in our business executing our to-dos, and we should be completing 90% of our to-dos, getting them to done every single week, 90% or better. So once we have our to-dos, we simply IDS number 1, IDS number 2, IDS number 3, and then rinse, lather, repeat. Rinse, lather, repeat. You continue to prioritize your top 3 to move the business forward. And some weeks you're going to IDS 3, 6, 9 issues. Some weeks you're only going to make progress on a big old hairy issue. That's great too. We need to ask ourselves, if this is a big old hairy issue that we know we're not going to get a solve on this week, what's our 80% of progress? What would give us the win to move this forward? And you IDS to that 80% in order to go out and execute to move that forward. So you continue to IDS until you've exhausted your IDS time, and then we simply move to a conclude. So when we're talking about what 100% strong looks like in the issues component, 2 things to remember. 1, we've got to create an open and honest environment. We have to, with intention, push the mindset shift of having psychological safety. Otherwise, you will not get your issues on your issues list. The whole point is people in your organization feeling comfortable raising their hand, and they are excited about putting those items on your issues list. So having an issues list, everyone has to have access to one, all layers of your accountability. So making sure everyone has access to the issues list, and the discipline of the culture shift to where people are comfortable putting the issues on the issues list. And making sure that once we have issues on an issues list, we are making sure we're keeping the short-term issues front, center, and visible in our 90-day world. We're making sure that those long-term issues that are impacting 90 days and greater, our 1-year plan, maybe quarter 2 or 3 of next year, that those are on our long-term issues list on our VTO. And we are also using the issues solving track to prioritize appropriately, identify the root cause of whatever the issue is. We are discussing everything that impacts the root cause in order to create new issues and create probable solves. And then when the conversation becomes redundant or the aggressiveness has lessened, someone on the team is saying, I think we can move to a solve. And you're taking that solve and restating it with clarity so everyone is leaving the meeting absolutely on the same page with what that solve is and how you're moving forward. And you've especially given the clarity to the to-do owner who's accountable for going out and executing on that solve in the week basis. So that is what 100% strong looks like in the issues component. As a reminder, leaders, it's about your business. It's about you getting everything out of your business. And how you get everything out of your business is working on strengthening the 6 key components of your business. You got to get people aligned and 100% on the same page with where you're going. You've got to make sure that you have your core values established with right people. You're attracting those right people to your culture, to your organization, and you have role clarity in your accountability chart. Everyone understands the seat that they're sitting in. It means that you are making decisions on objective information with data transparency. It means that you are getting your issues on your issues list, and you're using the issue solving track to become better problem solvers, and it's keeping you on track. And you have your processes being simplified, documented, and followed by all. And this beautiful, beautiful vision that you have articulated in your VTO, you are enabling that vision to be brought down to the ground, to be executed on with discipline, accountability, and gaining the traction. That is what 100% Strong looks like on the journey. So that's the content. I'd like to now just open the floor up for any question that you may think of related to the issues component. And once we get issues component, if there is anything else that happens to creep up, we'll see if we can answer that too. So we've got a little bit of time. I did a brief presentation on purpose just to allow you the opportunity to ask any questions that may have been wondering about, or something that you just needed clarity on. The way we're going to do this, Miss Sarah, if you can help me out, I'd like for everyone to use the raise hand reaction. Raise hand reaction, and Sarah, if you can just coordinate and allow them to unmute and ask your question, I'm happy to answer. Okay, open floor. What questions do we have? Raise your hand if you have any questions using your reaction mode. And if we can't figure that out, we can use the old-fashioned hand raise too. So, okay, I see someone.
Ashrat.
Okay.
To unmute yourself, and we'll start with you.
Okay.
If I said your name correctly.
Yes, you did. Hi, good morning. I'm Oshrat. I have a question. When everybody bring their issues, we're actually working on that right now. Let's say we have 50 of them. The first meeting, do we really read all of them and prioritizing them? We go through that process?
Yes, you really do. You really do. You want to skim it. And I have leaders that will do it a couple of ways. I have leaders that will literally take the moment in their IDS time and give people a minute and a half or so to skim through the issues list. Everyone's looking through it, and they're combing out and pulling to the surface their nominations for the top 3. I have other leaders that will say, before you walk into a level 10 meeting, you should know what's on your issues list. You should know what's impacting you. So be prepared to prioritize. Whatever works for you is the right way to do it. But yes, you must stop to prioritize your top 1, 2, and 3. Great question.
Thank you.
Yes, best wishes to you. Any other questions?
We had one come in via chat, Shay. This is Carolyn Harvey's question. Our visionary tends to dominate our IDS sessions. How do we encourage the rest of the team to participate?
That's a great question. We love our visionaries. We love our visionaries. So if the, I have a follow-up clarifying question for the person who put that in chat. I'm just curious, who is the facilitator of your level 10 meeting? Are you able to answer that clarifying question for me? Let's give them a moment.
She said she is, Carolyn, what's your seat? Not quite sure what her role is.
Okay. So a couple of things we can do. The facilitator of the level 10 meeting, this is where facilitating, when you're creating the role of who should be facilitating your level 10 meeting, you want to create that based off of who is the best individual who will dive deep into healthy conflict to keep everybody on track. And that's especially related to our visionaries, because our visionaries love to talk and they love to get those ideas out. They're great at that stuff. But at the same time, we don't want that to be a point where the other leaders don't use their voices and they're not providing that objective information and feedback as well. So the facilitator, sometimes you can say to, besides our visionary, which we love his answers, let's allow another leader to lead us down this path. Also, don't forget, in What the Heck is EOS? In the What the Heck is EOS book, the IDS, I think it's, oh goodness, I can't remember the page number, but it talks about who one sentence. who, one sentence. In the who, one sentence methodology to help you get down your path of identify, who is actually raising the issue is the first person who should speak. Who is actually accountable for the issue should be the second person that speaks. And then those two individuals have an open dialogue of stating what the real issue is in one sentence, one short, sweet, simple, one sentence. And then they open the dialogue for clarifying questions and questions of why and everything else. And that facilitator is guiding that engagement, guiding that instruction every step of the way. And even another tip, we can also have a sidebar conversation with our visionary and say, hey, did you really notice the looks on the other leader's face when we get deep down in discussing, and you have great ideas, validate you have great ideas, but we want to make sure that we're getting the other leaders. And what I've noticed is, and you state what you've noticed. So just a couple of tips you can use to try to help keep the visionaries' ideas appropriately at bay, but allowing those to be heard as well, because they're very valuable. Great question. Great question.
All right, we had another question via chat by Veritas Management Group. Today is their very first level 10 meeting. Please clarify.
Hey, congratulations. Sorry, I just had to be excited about that.
Please clarify if we should identify as many issues as possible in this meeting, prioritize 3, and work on solving the top 3 in the meeting.
Yes, yes, and yes. Since it's your very first meeting, you definitely want to take an opportunity when you get to IDS and just ask, what issues should be on our issues list? As you continue to go forward in your level 10 meeting journey, you want those issues to be captured real time, day in and day out, 7 days a week. So just making sure that you're getting those issues populated as they surface, as they arise. And then when you get to your level 10 meeting, you're able to briefly skim your issues list. And yes, prioritize the top 1, 2, and 3. And yes, with intention, work towards a solve on those 3. Keep in mind, because I don't want you to feel like you have done something incorrectly. If you do not get to a solve on those 3 issues, that's okay. It is okay. The whole point here when you're practicing IDS is to become masterful at it by practicing. And it's going to take some time and some repetition before you're able to truly start getting to that root cause and coming up with those solves. So begin practicing, watch the level 10 video. We can potentially put that in chat for you just as a heads up before actually going into your meeting as reminders, and then begin to practice your IDS. I promise it will get easier for you on a week-to-week basis. And yes, you will begin to solve those issues every single week. Congratulations. Great question.
All right, and we are moving over to Kelly Pratt. Kelly, feel free to unmute yourself.
Thank you.
Kelly.
Hi. I did ask this in the chat and I thought I had it clarified, but I would love for you to just say a few words about kind of the big picture of the difference between tasks and the issues. I'm not yet working with a real integrator, and the person I'm working with seems to confuse the two. Can you just say a brief clarification on that?
Yes, absolutely. When we're talking about, well, let me rewind. Remember, a to-do is a 7-day action item that comes from a solve. So you would have IDS the prior week's level 10 meeting, and based off of that solve, an accountable owner should be leaving that meeting with a to-do, a 7-day action item to make that solve go away. Sometimes I will see that leaders start confusing task with to-dos because they're everyday tasks that they must do just from sitting in their seat on the accountability chart. That is not necessarily an issue unless that task is preventing you from accomplishing a larger outcome. Okay, so your everyday duties of doing your job and things that you have to do, that's just a part of sitting in your seat on the accountability chart.
Mhm.
However, if you have a new idea, a new opportunity, a hindrance, something that's off track, those are the issues that are impacting not only your seat, but potentially other seats on the leadership team. And it takes larger than just, okay, I need to go make coffee in the kitchen type of task. It's going to take a little more thought process and in-depth to get the objectivity of understanding how do we move the business forward. That truly is an issue.
Okay.
Okay. Does that
Okay.
give you additional clarity?
Yeah, so the issue is larger, kind of a combination of several tasks or to-dos. The tasks should be accomplishable within 7 days. The issue itself might take, like you said, within 90 days.
It could potentially.
It could. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I've got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. All right. Great questions. Keep them coming, leaders. We've got a little more time here. Anything else you've been wondering about? Yes, ma'am, Sierra.
Yep. So this is coming from Will Carbach, who is a fellow implementer. He's wondering if you can share with everyone the various ways that issues find their way to the issues list.
The various ways that issues find their way to the issues list. Okay, yes. Here's the list. One, they find their ways to the issues list accidentally, just in conversation with one another. You may be having a very, innocent, what you think, conversation with another peer, another employee, and all of a sudden something surfaces and you're like, your gut is going to feel it first. Your gut is going to feel that first. If your gut is saying, we may need to have further discussion or talk about that, that's a way that it needs to go to the issues list immediately. Even if you have to keep your iPhone or your Android phone or something in front of you on a notes pad in order to say, here's all these things that are surfacing in my day-to-day, week-to-week, everyday world, and it pops up and you're not at a computer to actually get it on your issues list, keep your notes list going with all of those issues. So the next time that you sit down and you physically stop for a moment, you can populate that issues list. Another way, a lot of leaders have access to some, EOS 1 beta or some software that's allowing technology to support you getting those issues on an issues list. If you have a shared Google Drive or something like that everyone has access to allow them to real time type it into your Excel spreadsheet. So conversations, issues should be raised. When you're at home, making that martini at the end of the day, something pops up in your head, send yourself an email to make sure that you get it on the issues list. As you are talking and training and teaching everybody, any form of communication that you feel can move the business forward is an appropriate means of getting it on the issues list. So ask your leaders, how are they doing that and getting it on the issues list? What means? And if you find that the same old people are the ones putting issues on the issues list, and you're not getting that type of objective feedback from other leaders in your organization, that in itself is an issue. That's what should go on the issues list. So just keeping all of that front and center. My colleague, thank you. Great question.
We'll head to Manny next. Manny, feel free to unmute yourself.
Hello, I have to remember that martini comment. Okay, that's great.
All right, excellent.
So one of the issues we're facing on the issues list is that we seem to be ever growing our issues list, and we're kind of whittling away at it a little at a time. But my team has definitely commented several times that it's giving them anxiety because it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we're not solving fast enough, it seems. So one of the questions that has come up is, well, should we have like a second meeting midweek to do more issue solving, which just seems like a lot. So yeah, I was just curious what, and we are working with an implementer. He's given us some feedback on that, but I was curious what you thought about that.
Yes. Great question. And Yes, we want your issues list to be growing because it is a dynamic list of things going on and off of it every single week. The two reminders I would probably, and I'm sure your implementer has shared this with you, but the two reminders I would say is to make sure that you are truly compartmentalizing what should be on your short-term issues list versus your long-term issues list. Sometimes in our 90-day world, we have a lot of long-term stuff in there that really doesn't impact your rocks that you're set. It really doesn't impact where you are in the nature of the business. Let's just say this is Q4 for many of us right now. If it's not impacting your rocks for Q4, it should be on your long-term issues list. That in itself could make it a little more manageable. The other thing too is a lot of the times when you feel anxiety because your issues list is long, there's some deep-rooted stuff underneath there or some fear that I've seen with some teams of truly attacking the deep down dirty root cause of some of those issues. And whoever your facilitator is of the meeting, we've just got to say, you know what? We're going to grab this bull by the horns this week, and this is going to be the only thing that we're going to dig down and get to the root cause of. And if we get to a solve based off of this root cause, that's a win. That's a win. The other thing I would say to you is that sometimes the issues are big and hairy issues. There's just no way that you're going to get to a solve on them. So remembering what's our 80%? If you have many issues short term that are on that issues list, what's the 80% on this? We're gonna get through 3-6 issues today. What's our 80%? What's our 80%? And when you get to that 80%, move forward. Now what's the new issue now that we've gotten to the 80%? That's what goes on the issues list. You've actually solved and made progress on the original issue, if that makes sense. And then you're continuing to move those big old issues forward progressively. It is about progress, not perfection. You will hear that frequently. And any progress, any particular week on those issues, that's a win. That's a win. Okay, does that help?
Yeah, that no, thank you. Actually, I realized that. Yeah, some of our issues actually, there's really one root cause. So that's really true, actually. I do have another quick question I'm curious about. If I could ask a second one. Is one of the things we've also started to do, we've been running EOS for about 6 months now or so. One of the things I've noticed we've started to do is tackle, our implementer constantly is saying, tackle what you fear the most. What we've started to do is tackle the thing that we can get done the quickest that morning. Like, oh, this is a short issue. Let's just tackle this one. And I've noticed we started to get into a pattern of that. So curious your thoughts on that as well.
Yes, well, I 100% agree with your implementer. You want to tackle those things that you fear most. The easy things could be a root cause of that same fear that I was just mentioning, you know, so we want to knock out those easier things. But the real issue is what's preventing us from really going and attacking with tenacity some of those larger deep-rooted issues. The easy stuff, we can knock that out. Or really, is that just a cascading of communication? Is it just something where we need clarity? Is that something that we could have had a quick conversation, headed to the meeting to say, hey, so-and-so, 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 and you're on the same page and you're immediately moving forward with that? So the stuff that should be landing on that issues list is the deep-rooted, hard, nasty stuff, the great ideas that should be tackled to make you move the business forward. It's the team health stuff that should be on those issues lists, making sure you're IDSing and creating that culture of psychological safety. So I think there's some underlining issues there that could warrant an additional IDS. As far as why, asking your leaders, why is it that we do this?
Yeah, I go back to that. Could have been an email, you know, maybe that could have just been an email or a quick chat or something. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, great questions though.
Yeah,
and congratulations on your journey, 6 months. You got this. Excellent. Great questions. Keep them coming. Anything else?
Yes, we have quite a few in the chat, so we'll go over there before we head to Caroline. But Phil Bell says, our visionary sometimes thinks that nearly every issue needs to be solved by each leader in their area of oversight. That's what we pay you for. What is a good framework that can help determine what issues come to the level 10 that everyone needs to IDS?
Yes, great question. So anything that's impacting overarching company concerns, company initiatives, company vision concerns, company related high level. So you see that there's going to be some cross-departmental impact for those other major function seats on your accountability chart. Great place for the level 10 meeting. Anytime an individual seat owner that sits in a major function seat on your leadership team, anytime they are stuck and they cannot move their division or their department forward because they are stuck, should definitely be on your level 10 leadership team meeting, because the whole point is to keep them moving forward so they can go back and keep their teams moving forward. Another thing that may go on the issues list is, are we having maybe some LMA, leadership management accountability issues that may need to be discussed on our second layer of accountability, some additional training or resources to allow those leaders to be able to solve their own issues. It takes practice. Great question. Thank you.
All right, Carolyn, feel free to unmute yourself. We'll head to you next.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm going back to the visionary. I'm getting mixed messages around the community on whether a visionary should attend a level 10 meeting or not.
Yes, if your visionary is in the day-to-day business, because visionaries work in the business, if they are in the day-to-day business and they are actively working and guiding and supporting that vision, then yes, they should be in your level 10 meeting.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. I think, yes, our visionary is in the day-to-day business, but trying to get out of the day-to-day business.
Okay, so if they are trying to get out of the day-to-day business, I would go back and potentially in a same page meeting or a level 10 meeting, IDS, how do we do that? How do we get our visionary back in their seat and make sure we've got specific role clarity for the visionary seat as well? But if they're working in the business, they should be a part of that level 10 meeting. And as they transition and the role changes, then that meeting cadence may also change.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you very much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Great questions.
All right, Mary commented in the chat, should the issues on the issues list only pertain to making the 1-year goal a reality?
No. And they should be inclusive of making the 1-year goal a reality. So anything that's on that long-term issues list can be anything that impacts 90 days or greater. So that could be your 1-year plan. That could be something related to your 3-year picture. It could be a future opportunity or acquisition that maybe impacts your 10-year target. So you just want to make sure that you're putting the long-term issues outside of 90 days on your long-term issues list and keeping the short-term issues list with the things that are impacting your 90-day world, your rocks, and just going to move you closer to that 1-year plan. If you are hindering or stuck or off track in your rocks or your 90-day world, and that is a rock to get you to the 1 year, you want to make sure that's in your short-term issues list and you're dealing with that on a week-to-week basis. Okay, great question.
All right, heading to Anto next. And Anto, you may want to unmute yourself so that I make sure I get your question right. He's asking, an issue is solved or closed by doing all of the to-dos, right? What happens if we put all to-dos? Do we close the issue even if it's not already solved? So I think just looking for clarity between what solves an issue regarding to-dos.
Yes. We discussed the issue, but then we put a lot of to-dos to solve that issue. But I don't know if we have to put solve and close the issue, because the next week we have the same issue, because sometimes the issue is not solved, so it's coming back to the issues list.
Okay.
And I don't understand that that dynamic.
Okay, got it. So when you get to your solve, you are stating what we are agreeing to do is this is going to move us forward. That is your solve. That decision becomes your solve. And from that decision, yes, you may have several to-dos that gets you to the outcome of what that solve was. In the event you go throughout your week to execute on your solve, meaning you've got a to-do and everyone's executing on it. If that to-do blows up and all of a sudden you've got several more issues that surface from that to-do, it tells me that we could have spent a little more time and identify in order to ensure that we're getting to the root cause of those issues. So many of the times what I see is that a to-do doesn't get to done for two reasons. One, we've got an individual that just flat out didn't do it, which is an accountability issue. Or you have these to-do created new issues. So you want to make sure that you're capturing the new issues and you are actually solving the solve. You're getting rid of it because those to-dos was your way of executing on that solve. So you close it out, it's gone. As it blows up, you create the new issues, and all of those new issues go on your issues list, and you go back to the basics. Identify the root cause, prioritize them, and you continue with that same process. Rinse, lather, repeat. Does that give you clarity?
Yes, thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, next we are heading to Cheryl's question. Cheryl has someone on her leadership team who saves all of her issues until the weekly L10 instead of addressing things as they happen. She feels like this isn't always the best way to manage things, so she would love your thoughts.
Gotcha. So I think the fact that you're even thinking about that and asking that question could be a great LMA conversation of dialogue. To just ask the question, you know, help me understand why you think this is the best way, and offer even some additional recommendations of, you know, is there an opportunity that we could have asked this leader prior to? And based off of that answer, align and create the resources, the mentorship or the coaching to allow the comfort to be there of dealing with it real time. There's some additional issues I think I'm hearing underneath that question, but a great way to dig into that a little more is just having some open, honest dialogue, LMA, in order to create the additional conversations. I know that's not a direct answer, but that's some guidance that I could provide.
Cheryl shared some additional context. She said she is afraid of the visionary who's Cheryl. So Cheryl's the visionary. Yeah. Gotcha.
Okay, so there's the issue that we can IDS to understand what's causing some of that hesitation or that fear, or the hesitation of allowing the voice to be heard. That goes back to creating that environment of open, honest communication. Yeah.
Great. And she said that is what they're doing. So thank you, Shay.
Beautiful. You're on the right track. Excellent.
All right, we have one additional question from Will. Can you share with the group on how an issue goes from the short-term issues list to the long-term issues list?
Yes, we live in that 90-day world, and everything that impacts our 90-day world is that short-term issues list. Let's just say we end our 90-day world, and at our end of the quarter, we look through all of those short-term issues, and you may decide, you know what, this is no longer a priority for us in our new 90-day world. And if that is the case, you simply move that used to be short-term issue to your long-term issues list, because we don't want to see that in the 90-day world you're living in. And that is going to happen every quarter, because in an entrepreneurial business with all of those moving parts, things happen. Stuff happens on a day-to-day basis and priorities shift. Remember, we're working on that leadership team ability. We're learning to predict. You know, we've got those 5 leadership team abilities. So out of those 5 leadership team abilities, we're strengthening the ability of predicting long-term and short-term. Sometimes priorities shift. If it's no longer a priority in the 90-day world you're living in, shift it off to your long-term issues list and house it on your VTO. Excellent. Great question. Thank you. These have been great, Sarah. Yay.
We're through the questions in the chat, so we can just scan the room one more time. Does anyone have any additional questions today before we hop off?
No additional questions. Okay, wonderful. I'd like to thank you so very much for hanging in here with me this beautiful Monday morning. And please, please don't forget the Strong in 6 Business Challenge series is going on for the rest of the month. Oh, do we have a question? Okay, I thought I saw someone wanting to speak. Okay, so just remember, this is going on for the rest of the month, all the way up into the first week of November. So take advantage of the calendar and pipe in to get this great EOS content. You guys have been awesome. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for joining me this morning. Have a great week of productivity. Have great level 10 meetings and IDS the heck out of those issues. See you guys. Bye.